Hi, I'm Mitch Carlson. I've worked within Canada's energy sector for nearly 15 years, both within a regulated utility environment and as a management consultant. During that time, I've had the opportunity to engage with a variety of stakeholders from governments and municipalities to various commercial and industrial sectors, oil and gas producers, as well as renewable energy developers and energy efficiency experts. These conversations and engagements would range from a variety of energy related topics such as the safe and reliable production of energy, affordability, economic development, and environmental impact. Um, in in recent years, I've become increasingly interested in clean energy solutions and sustainability initiatives. And I want to share with you what was the initial trigger for me to get interested in this field, why I'm passionate about supporting a low carbon and clean energy future, and why I would like to encourage more people to share their story about energy, the environment, and climate change. So, to start with, I've always considered myself as someone who was an environmentally conscious person. I think a lot of people think that, but essentially that included just the basics of I recycled my cans and bottles. I never litter. I planted a few trees in my day, but really I didn't become really interested in the environment until about 5 years ago, and understanding the environmental impacts of the systems that we've created, and this whole climate change thing. So admittedly, I'm a little bit late to the party in some ways, as knowing now that some people have dedicated their entire lives to this field. But I think for me, it just seemed a little bit distant until something hit a little bit closer to home, that helped me to clue in. So my climate change story has to do with the flaring and venting of natural gas. So when I was manager of business development for Saskatchewan's natural gas transmission and distribution utility, our business unit was on the lookout for creative energy solutions, including energy supply, energy delivery, and storage solutions. One of the files was to investigate bringing on additional associated gas from supplies in Saskatchewan's oil field onto market. So associated gas is natural gas that's produced alongside the production of oil. And often associated gas is considered a byproduct to oil production, and it's either flared or vented because it is deemed uneconomic to capture. So what I learned from this exercise is that in Saskatchewan, over 30% of the natural gas in association with oil is either flared or directly vented to atmosphere. These volumes of flared and vented gas, reported by Saskatchewan's oil and gas sector, equate to over 1 billion cubic meters per year. So to put that into context of what 1 billion cubic meters of natural gas is, that's enough natural gas to heat every home in the province, so about 1 million people. This volume also represents about $100 million in unrealized commodity value, and the province collects no royalties from these resources because for some reason royalties are only paid on resources that are commercialized. So despite the fact that they've been produced from the reserves and have been lost, no royalties are collected on these particular uh, um, resources. Given that this gas goes uncaptured, the province needs to bring gas in from elsewhere. So it's not like this isn't valuable or we don't need this resource. Actually, 60% of the gas that is used in Saskatchewan to meet the demands of the province is actually brought in from Alberta, and then meanwhile we're flaring all this gas within the province. So just take a moment to let that sink in, just from a wasted resource potential, because that in itself I found astonishing. But then let's add in the environmental impacts behind this. So the upstream oil and gas sector in Saskatchewan as a whole generates about 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions in the province. So less than half of these total emissions are related to the energy it takes to produce oil and gas. More than half are categorized as fugitive or wasted. So in other words, they offer no working value for things such as heating, industrial, or mobility. It's just emissions that are lost to atmosphere. Now, a significant amount of these emissions can come from various system leaks throughout the supply chain, the thousands of pieces of equipment like pneumatic valves and compressors, but the majority in Saskatchewan comes from the flaring and venting practices. So flaring and venting in Saskatchewan contributes to an estimated 8.5 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions. This is about the same as the amount of all the on-road transportation emissions in the province, but without any of the value of moving people and cargo. I also learned that this is something that's not unique to Saskatchewan. It's not, globally this happens as well. So flaring and venting volumes worldwide are estimated at 140 billion cubic meters, equating to more than 300 million tons of CO2 emissions. So this is when the issue of climate change hit a little bit closer home for me. This understanding of how incredibly wasteful that we can be, and the lengths that we have to go to in order to produce the energy to meet the demands of our society. And then knowing that this was happening in my own backyard and within my own sector that I was working in, somehow felt a sense of responsibility to try and look for solutions and understanding how to improve the situation. So that's what's driven me to help to continue to learn more about energy supply chains, their impacts on the environment, and to help develop solutions and alternatives. That's now why I focus my work in this area on advocating for resource and ecological conservation, waste reduction, energy efficiencies, and the sourcing and distribution of clean energy and low carbon energy solutions. Now, I realize that this is a huge challenge. Our society has benefited from fossil fuels. I completely recognize that. Also recognize how ingrained we are in these systems and how challenging that will be. And I've learned firsthand through my work how difficult it can be, to work in this field. Sometimes support doesn't come very easily. Change doesn't often happen as quickly as you'd like it to be. And a lot of times things just don't make a lot of sense. And so this year when I see young people everywhere participating in climate strikes all over the world, concerned about the future of the planet that they're going to inherit, I can't help but empathize with them. They too are looking for some support. They're looking for a sense of understanding. They're looking to have a voice, and I think simply they just want to make a difference. So I'd like to let them know that they have been heard. They're being heard. People are paying attention to them. I'd also like to let them know that work is being done and action is being taken. Change is trying to happen. And I'd like to try and help them to end their climate strike, but I don't think that they're going to do that without us proving it to them. So we need to show them that real change is happening. We're going to need to show them some real results, and we're going to have to show them that we do stand in support of their future. So I felt like as good a place as any was to share this with you, a little bit of my commentary. So that's my climate change story. I'd really be interested in hearing yours. So I'd like to invite you to become part of the climate conversation. If climate change is an important thing to you, tell your story, ask your questions, share your ideas, get your word and get your voice out there. Reach out on social media with your own video, an article, or simply a comment with the hashtag ClimateConvo, and follow along at www.climateconvo.com. Your response doesn't need to be overly eloquent or very high production value. I'm pretty sure I've shown that here. But it's through message that it's important. It's your voice that can be influential, because you never know who's going to be out there listening to you. So thanks very much for tuning in. I look forward to hearing from you.